What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a pretty interesting topic. With that, I'm going to start it off. No fluff here, going straight into the stuff. Connor, what is high intensity training?
Good question. So, high intensity training is the philosophy that intensity sort of governs the adaptations to the body that you want, right?
Okay.
So you're approaching your exercise sessions in a very calculated and efficient way. You're taking your sets to failure, and you're performing very minimal sets. The purpose of this is because you're trying to cause as much muscular damage as possible to the target muscle, and you're trying to optimize recovery. Right. So you're trying to train infrequently, right? So it's very, very intense, right? So the best way, I guess, to look at it is if I like this towel analogy.
Yeah.
So you have this damp towel. We've all done this where you're trying to wring out like a wet shirt.
Yeah.
Right. Every single set you perform, right? You have that is like that damp towel. You're trying to squeeze every single rep out with as little wasted energy as possible, so you're not breaking down form. Right? You're not speeding up the tempo. You are completely exhausting and destroying that muscle as much as you can. You're trying to wring every single drop out.
Yeah.
So an example would be, okay, bicep curls, that's the easiest, right? We're failing on the positive face.
Yeah.
Okay, once we can no longer perform an extra rep, maybe someone helps you pick it up and then you lower it. So now you're fatiguing the negative portion of the movement, right? And then maybe at the end you have some pulses at the bottom, so you can't do anymore. Maybe then someone helps you and you just hold it as long as you can, right? Boom, that's one set done, right? So you've reached positive failure, negative failure, static failure. You can't hold it, you can't lift it, you can't lower it. The muscle's totally fucked. Right? Move on to the next exercise. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a different sort of philosophy than the high volume approach that most people sort of gravitate towards. I feel like people gravitate towards it more because it's not as intense. It's not as hard. You wouldn't necessarily gravitate to something this difficult and uncomfortable naturally, right? Sort of a learned thing.
Yeah.
It's just not as sexy or as popular as people train nowadays. Like a lot of these Instagram fitness people either have already good genetics, they don't really know what they're doing and they're getting results anyways, or they're using drugs. I want no business with any of that, right? I'm completely concerned with, in terms of a client or myself, what is the minimum effective dose to stimulate muscle growth and stimulate that adaptation? And then you go recover, you come back, we do it again. Right? Doing more than what's required is considered overtraining. And one set is all that's required, obviously. Right? There has to be a minimum of one. So if you can maximize one, job done. Right? So anything that's more than needed would be considered overtraining in the high intensity training world, right? But let me just give you an analogy, okay? So let's say you came in to me as a client, okay, and you're like, I want to build my upper body. I want to build muscle. I want to put on 5 pounds of muscle, okay? So here we got a pound of muscle, right? When you come in here and you do a HIIT session, can I see your hand? So Dorian Yates uses this sandpaper analogy. So Dorian Yates is 6-time Mr. Olympia. He adopted the high intensity training protocol, right? And he used it to become 6-time Mr. Olympia, biggest bodybuilder of all time, most impressive at that time, right before Ronnie Coleman, obviously, right? So what he says is, so imagine your hand. If I took a really rough piece of sandpaper to your hand and I just destroyed your hand for like 2 minutes, and I take the sandpaper away, your hand's going to be all bloody. There's going to be a wound there, right? So you go recover for a week, you come back, your hand is healed, right? But it's healed back with a callus or with some thicker skin. Why? Because it's an adaptation to a stress, right? So high intensity training, if done properly, is the sandpaper to the muscle, right? You're breaking the muscle down while you're in the gym, right? We want to do as little as possible. We just need enough breakdown to stimulate change, right? And then we go recover outside. Our body makes the adaptation, it then super compensates and grows tissue. Then we come back in, but now we need a stronger piece of sandpaper to break it down the next time, which is the term progressive overload, which means we're adding more weight, we're adding more reps, we're doing more stimulus than last time, right? So in a nutshell, that's sort of the philosophy. The other thing that goes with that is the cardio benefits. If you apply it, with a protocol that doesn't allow for an unnecessary amount of rest, you get all the cardio benefits associated with this type of training as well.
Your heart rate's just
Through the roof, right? You're moving from machine to machine.
I noticed that, like, here, to all the people that haven't been to Area 52, every machine is it's located at the right distance from each other, just so you can have that effectiveness.
Yeah, and I've gotten away from saying that this is the best gym, because that sounds combative. Every gym is great.
Yeah.
Okay? I say now this is the best training atmosphere in the area,
Yeah.
because it is. Because it's a gym it's designed by a trainer, by a professional trainer with these philosophies, right? Machines are put in specific places for specific reasons. I want to be able to move quick from my pullover into my pull down, or into my chin up.
Exactly.
I want to move quick from my chest fly into my chest press.
Yeah.
I want to move quick from my hamstring curl to my hip abduction to my leg press or my squat. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, we got the leg press on this side of the gym and then the leg extension on this side of the gym and then the dumbbells are over here.
Yeah.
We use those adjustable dumbbells that I can take them anywhere with me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a gym designed by a trainer. It's the best training atmosphere. I'm confident saying that. Like, there's nothing in this area that can come close to what we can produce here in a half an hour with each client.
100%. I've seen it. I've seen it in front of me. You haven't put me through a workout yet. But
We'll
but I've seen you train, right? And you apply all this stuff to your own training.
Yeah, and it works.
Right. So you have results that it works.
That's a whole other video.
Right.
We could talk about that little experiment.
During the lockdown.
Yeah. But I appreciate that, and it does work. If you are like a mammal, like this kind of stress to your body, it's gonna happen. It's impossible for it not to. It's an adaptation to stress. It's sort of a survival mechanism that's built in to your body, right? That's why you get the callus when you sandpaper your hand, right? So it's scientifically inescapable, these philosophies. I think that it's just people just it's not something they're used to because it's hard,
right?
Yeah. And they almost don't want to admit that this is how hard training should be. Right. And one of my favorite quotes is I posted on Instagram the other day. It was Arthur Jones, the inventor of Nautilus. He says, chances are, if you like an exercise, chances are you're doing it wrong. Right. So
I heard you and Andrew talking about that once here. So
yeah, it's interesting.
But
so I think that's pretty much high intensity, like, in a nutshell. It's just maximum effort in as little quality over quantity.
Right. Yeah. Comes down to that.
Yeah. Right. If I can get the job done in 6 sets, why am I doing 7?
Yeah.
Right. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Right.
With that, I know you talked a little bit about its popularity, but if you could expand on that a little bit, or just touch on it again about why HIIT training, being so effective, why isn't it as popular as it could be?
Oh yeah, for sure. So, well, I'm hoping that with this podcast and like my business gaining traction, that this will sort of get another surge. Like maybe not this year, might be years from now, but this will get another surge in popularity. Yeah. If not in the bodybuilding community, but definitely in like the healthcare side of things. Yeah. Right? Because this is a very time efficient. It's not cheap. Having a personal trainer is a little more of a luxury, right? But it's the cheapest way to do this. Yeah. Right? You're not paying $80 every time you come. You're paying $35 or $40. Yeah. Right? So it's more affordable. You only need to do it once a week to improve your health. Yeah. Right? So I guess to answer your question is, so why is it not as popular? Was that what you said? Yeah. Yeah, it's not as popular. So I feel like when someone walks in, it's like a client walks in, and I have to explain these philosophies to them, I'm almost already fighting their preconceived notions
what they've seen
of exercise, right? Because they think, oh, I'm going to go do the treadmill, or I'm going to work out 5-6 days a week, right? So I'm already combating their preconceived incorrect notions, which is fine. They're obviously not experts. I'm not experts at what they do. Yeah. Just like I could never do what you do, right? It'd be a huge learning curve. But it's weird. Everybody kind of has the same thoughts about exercise naturally, right? No one's been really taught the right way. So I'm in here telling them, like, no, we got to just do like once or twice a week. Yeah. It's going to be like this. And they're already like, oh, well, I thought 5 or 6 days a week. That's what I've been doing. Right. And they're getting next to no results, right? Yeah. So I think the reason for that is because Arthur Jones came up with these principles in the 70s, right? His apple on the head moment was when he observed a gorilla doing a one-arm chin-up. He was like, that was really strong and intense, very quick, but that gorilla doesn't do anything else all day. It just sits there and eats, right? But it was able to pull itself up with one arm. Yeah. How? Right? So that was his connection to okay, intensity, brief, intense exercise, power, huge muscle. Yeah. Right? That's kind of what got him thinking this. Right? And then obviously he got obsessed with it and built the Nautilus equipment, like the best tools with variable resistance. Huge innovation, right?
Very it's huge. Those machines, like from personal experience, I'm telling you, you can leg press thousands of pounds, but come here and try this guy's stack that he has over here, and
oh yeah, it humbles you.
It'll humble you.
When we had the gym membership option, like we get bodybuilders that would come in, like, and the people that could load like 10 plates or 1,000 pounds, whatever, on the hammer strength leg press, the plate loaded one, and then they come here and they go on one of my Nautilus machines. They can't even move the full stack. It only goes up to 500 pounds or whatever, but they can't budge it, right? Because the variable resistance,
just the way it is
optimal, and they're just used to training so. Not optimal. Right? The muscles aren't actually getting adequate challenge, whereas with the Nautilus machine, you can't escape it.
Exactly.
Right? You're going to challenge that muscle through the full range of motion.
That's the key there, the full range of motion, right? So
totally. So he came up with these principles by observing that gorilla, and then they just did more and more and more research on it, and what they figured out eventually was that that it was intensity that triggers muscle growth, right, and muscle breakdown, right, and anything more than that is considered sort of overtraining. So high intensity training had this huge surge in the 70s with Arthur Jones, and then other people started making gym equipment. Obviously it became like a business now, everyone wants to have gym equipment, so other things came out that looked the same. Nautilus was no longer the only player in the game, so that kind of dilutes it right off the bat.
It does,
so now not everyone's talking about Nautilus. Then Arnold Schwarzenegger was also big into the whole high volume. You got to go to the gym 6 days a week for hours. And because the best in the world at the time was using that philosophy, everybody else adopted that philosophy. And then right around the end of Arnold's time, a guy named Mike Mentzer showed up. I'm not too familiar with Mike Mentzer. Like he's great physique. He challenged Arnold for the last Mr. Olympia, and he used high intensity principles. And his thing was one set of each thing, right? So high intensity kind of got another surge of popularity with Mike Mentzer's physique and him challenging Arnold, and then that kind of died down when he retired. And then in the 90s, it got its biggest surge. Was when Dorian Yates came out, 6-time Mr. Olympia. He used these principles to win Mr. Olympia 6 times, right? And he built the biggest, leanest, most muscular physique at that time. No one had seen somebody this big and lean, right?
He shocked the world.
And the thing with Dorian is he wasn't like a huge, what's the word, like, he wasn't like the best maybe like face of bodybuilding. Like as a person, I think he's great. But he would show up, win the Olympia, and go back to the UK and then train in his dungeon gym. He didn't do like all the tours, all the magazines. There was no social media, right? So he was just going, winning, going back. His thing was, I wanted to create, they called him the shadow. Because he would show up, he would win, and then he would be gone. And then people would be talking like, what's Dorian doing? Like, what's this, and this, right? But he was just sticking to those high intensity principles, progressive overload, just out training people with work and just being smarter, training smarter, and combining that with the hard work ethic and discipline. So everybody then in the 90s had amazing physiques, and it's pretty widely accepted. If you look back at bodybuilding, the 90s have the best physiques. Like the top 6 people in the Olympia all look great. Like any one of them could win, really, right? Whereas today you don't see that level of quality with density and graininess and leanness and the size, right? Now, that's because everybody started chasing Dorian and training with the high intensity principles. So it got this huge surge in the 90s. Then obviously Dorian gets hurt and he retires. Ronnie Coleman shows up. Just an absolute freak. Obviously, I would probably say he's the best bodybuilder of all time, even though Dorian's my favorite. Then after that, in the 2000s, there's just never been another high intensity Mr. Olympia who trained like this, right? And I don't know if that's just because it's not like the drug use they use, or if that's genetics or whatever.
A lot of different factors that come into play. Right?
That come into play there. So it just kind of had its time, and then it sort of just fizzled out. Right. So, but you can't deny that it's scientifically unescapable that these principles work. Right. I think another thing though is that the trainers nowadays, they don't get the same education as they do. So I'm very fortunate to have had my education with Prescribed Exercise Clinic, and sort of have a background of bodybuilding and already knowing who Dorian Yates was at the time anyways.
Right.
And so being shown this way and how to properly train this way is huge, and a lot of people just aren't taught that. And it's really hard. So as a trainer, like, I'm really good at selling it now. But like, are you going to live and die by this philosophy? Like, are you going to take your client to a level 10 out of 10? Right, and then risk losing them as a client? or are you going to let them train at level 7 and keep your business open?
Right.
Right? So a lot of personal training,
You're at that.
right? You're like, how hard am I going to push this person? Is it too hard? Will they keep coming? I've had people after the first workout like puke or not want to come back.
Right.
So I had to modify my first session to make it a little bit easier,
yeah,
right?
It's like a dichotomy. It's a dichotomy, I think it's what it's called, like, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and just adding to all of it, like, there's a relationship between intensity, frequency, and volume.
Yeah.
Right? So the higher your intensity, which when I say intensity, I don't mean you're screaming and you're throwing and grunting weights. I mean you're using a weight that you can fail at 8 to 12 reps, at least 40 seconds attention time, with absolute perfect form.
Right.
Right? And then once you fail with perfect form, you're doing a couple negatives, you're doing some partials, you're taking that beyond a failure, or maybe it's a drop set, things like this, right? Once you do that once, you've stimulated, you're good to go with that movement.
Yeah.
On to the next exercise.
Right.
Right? The problem is...
With that, can you
pause?
Pause. Still recording.
Okay, cool. Yeah. The problem with that, though, and why I think it's really hard to explain to people and where this gets combative, is people don't train with high intensity, therefore they make the assumption that they need to do more sets and train more often, which is correct. That's not wrong. They do need to, because they're not training with as much intensity and precision.
Yeah.
So if someone says like, well, you know, so-and-so gets results going, like, of course, because they have to.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't going 4 or 5 times a week, they wouldn't be stimulating any muscle growth.
That's true.
Because they're not training properly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're using momentum. They're not doing negative reps.
Yeah.
Right. They're doing pointless things.
Yeah. You're not breaking the muscle down in 3 sets, so you need to do 6. Right. So.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah.
So this principle is very hard.
Yeah.
It's very much a mindset, but mental toughness. It's something you will gain with this too. That will help you in all aspects of life.
Yeah, no, I thought Andrew and you touched on mental fortitude and how HIIT training really applies to that in the last episode. So I feel like if you want to talk a little bit about that, how it helps mentality.
Sure. Like the only time in my life when I didn't like exercising was when I was going to prescribed exercise, and Stephen was training us, because his big thing was like, if you're gonna put a client through this, if you're gonna tell people to do it, you have to do it. You need to know what this feels like. Yeah. Right? And I remember just laying on the floor, wanting to puke, like after these sessions. I would get anxiety going in, like, oh my god, like it's time to train. Like I'm nervous. You know what I mean? Jeez. Fight or flight was already kicking in before I even like started. Damn. Right? So yeah, I think a lot of people felt that way. And maybe some of my clients feel that way when they come here, but that's good. That's how it should feel. You know, you're about to work hard. You're about to make a change.
You're about to push your limits, right? Yeah.
And it's just things like, you know, pushing through that lactic acid burn and staying calm. That's one of my favorite things to say, is stay calm but stay aggressive. Right? Like when you're on those last few reps where it really burns and you want to speed up, no, stay calm but still stay aggressive, forceful and powerful, but slow. Like really squeeze, because you are signaling to your body that you're a victim if you start freaking out. Right. Right? You're not a victim. You're actually the predator right now. You're attacking this muscle for a specific desired result, right? Once you shift that mindset, it totally changes everything. Right. Right?
That's actually a very good point that you can apply to every part of life. When you're in a stressful situation, it's fight or flight. Right. Right? Do you stay calm and fight? Yeah. Go through the obstacle, or do you the flight option? Right. Freak out. That's it, I fail, I can't do another rep.
Totally. And you see that, like people will give out, it's hard. Yeah. So you can't blame them, it's really hard, we're pushing them to our limits and beyond. Like when our YouTube channel, Notorious HIIT, that's gonna be our catch line, is to failure and beyond. Yeah. Right? So it is very uncomfortable. But the people that tend to like this style of training the most, I find, are already like accomplished alpha type business people, who are successful in their business, in their personal life, whatever. Yeah. They really like this because it's such a challenge, and they like that feeling of like, I am attacking myself. I know that I'm pushing myself harder than last time. Yeah. I don't want to walk out of here feeling like I could have gave one more.
I have something left in the tank.
Right? And again, back to where we started, it's that towel. Just get it all out, right? Yeah. If you focus on making every set like this and just getting out of every set, you won't ask about volume. Right. You won't want to do more. It's completely erased from your like mentality. Exactly. You will totally be all in. Yeah. Right. So that's why I think it kind of had its time, and now why it's sort of been like a low. Yeah. So my goal with this whole thing is to kind of just educate people on the benefits of it. Like I said, I think it's the most time efficient and effective way for people to get results. That's true. If they don't want to live in the gym or they're really busy. Yeah. So hopefully we can be part of that next surge up. Yeah. And getting people more familiar with it.
I'm
And
educated on this, yeah.
that's my goal, man.
Yeah, no, that's sweet.
Yep.
I think you're doing a really good job. You're really affecting the lives of a lot of people that I see coming here,
Mhm.
right? So with that, I know it's going to spread. So
Great. That's what we hope for.
yeah.
Can only be a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's only up from here.
Definitely, man.
All right, man.
Thanks a lot, eh?
Great podcast.
Yep.
And everybody watching, be on the lookout for the next episodes. And we've got some crazy topics. If there's anything you want us to talk about, or a certain topic you want to talk about, a different style of training, what our opinion is on it, or how you can train at home right now in COVID times, comment below or shoot a message to any of us on Instagram, and we'll get back to you and we'll do something on that. So with that, see you guys later.
See ya.